When you're born into a fire, let them burn it out. Sell them to the richest buyer. They wanna let the world decay. They tell us lies and fade away, fade away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. Listen up now, because we're never dropping out. Beat the odds, beat the big house. The brains are bigger than the doubt. We've been thinking for ourselves, never let the truth fade away. This is bigger than ourselves, we won't let the world burn away, burn away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. To play, haters face the world's mistakes. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. And we feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. To play, haters face the world's mistakes. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. What you think about when you're born into a fire? Let them burn it out. Sell them to the richest buyer. They wanna let the world decay. They tell us lies and fade away, fade away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. Listen up now, because we're never dropping out. Beat the odds, beat the big house. The brains are bigger than the doubt. We've been thinking for ourselves, never let the truth fade away. This is bigger than ourselves, we won't let the world burn away, burn away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. To play, haters face the world's mistakes. Wake at the back of the pack, kill
Hello and welcome to another episode of Making an Impact. I'm Astrid and I'm here with a special guest, Mr. Parrish. How are you, Parrish?
I'm good. How are you? There we
I'm
go.
tired, but I'm glad we had like a decent episode of Impact. I don't know how you felt about it though.
Yeah, it was
Maybe.
good. It's always good to see like people that you're not really always familiar with, and kind of just be able to simplify your expectations sometimes, and just be enjoying what you're seeing instead of criticizing because you expect more than you get. If
Yeah,
that makes
that's true.
sense.
It does. I figure it was other show as always we do with BTI. We always like to highlight BTI. Um, Hello, thank you for stopping by. We have BTI today was Ace Austin versus Zicky Dice. Uh, I don't know how I feel about this match, to be honest. Um, I like I like Austin, but at the same time, I don't want him Zicky Dice for a match before the Impact of all places. But um, I feel like the match itself was very like simple. There was nothing out of the ordinary. I think the only thing that really was, um, I guess, like highlighted in a way was when we had Chris Bay. He was like high fiving Austin during the match, and then Ziggy Dice goes to hit him, so Bay moves out of the way. He hits Swinger instead, but as nothing out of the ordinary, Austin wins this match. I'm like I feel like I don't know what my thoughts are on this match. Did you have any?
It seemed very much like a house show match where
Yeah.
it was very like entertaining for like the live audience, but it just seemed like a I don't know, a lot of it didn't seem to translate to me, and maybe that's just because I'm not well I converse with the two. Ace Austin just also seemed like he goes a lot quicker than Zicky Dice.
Mm,
Zicky Dice is
yeah.
more the slow entertainment, let's have fun kind of a character,
Mm,
whereas Ace Austin is just go, 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 go. So um, I don't know, they just didn't seem to mesh that well. But at the same
mm,
time, it wasn't a bad match. There wasn't a lot of bad faults.
mm.
But Ace Austin, I want him to go up against people that challenge him a little bit more, if that, instead
Yeah,
of
I
other
felt the same
people.
because I feel like the styles were definitely like very contradicting in that aspect, and just like I see Ace having more like a serious kind of thing, kind of character and storylines going forward versus where Ziggy is nothing like that. So it's like I didn't know how I feel about the combination of these two, how this match came about, to be honest. So it felt like one of those like random matches for me, to be honest. But it is what it is. It already happened. Uh, but to start the show, we had Masha versus Killer Kelly. I feel like this is another one, and not in a bad way or anything. I just nothing stood out to me aside from like the ending in itself. When we have Masha reversing Kelly's submission for her to win the match, but Killer Kelly still keeps the submission on her as she's choking her. So Masha passes out, and Killer Kelly still kind of leaves the match with a smirk on her face because she feels like she did the job that she wanted, even though she didn't win the match in itself. So I thought it was interesting, like the back and forth they have with each other here, but at the end to have Killer Kelly stand up tall. Um, Harry, that was the first time in a while I've got bored with a BCI match and I did it for honest. I don't want to say I don't blame you, but I don't blame you though. It definitely was not what I expected the match to be, and I feel like it's just the part of like they combined two people they should have put together in here, because I like Ace Austin, but this is definitely not how I would have paired him up with to begin with, unfortunately. But what do you think about Masha versus Killer Kelly that you were watching on your way home? So,
Yeah, I actually liked the match, but it's not a match that you're gonna write home about. It's not a match that you're gonna like remember, but it's a match that when you're watching it, you actually enjoy it. There's a lot about Masha. Hey, Ed, how are you doing? Um, there's a lot to like about Masha Slamovich. Actually, I've been able to have the fortunate to do a show with her, to watch her a few times in person, over in my neck of the woods, but there's always something about her that is just enjoyable to watch. But it seems like she just needs something extra in her step, just to be a little bit bigger in terms of the live audience. And I don't know, like I just as the match went on, I'm just thinking more Masha, and I don't know if that's such the best thing going forward, but I do think, hey, if this match later with Deonna and Jordynne Grace happens, I know we have the Trinity thing there. I think Masha Slamovich is a very viable option to have and put in that mix and be a very fresh outlook.
Yeah, because I was like, I won't say like disappointed in that aspect when they put her in the matches just to have her lose and just one after the other one. It's something that I was not expecting after having her be undefeated for I think it was a year at that point. And just I feel like ever since then it's been like kind of like lackluster for her in a bit. I think the biggest thing that she's done has been on Team Bully, and we've seen her like here and there every few weeks, but nothing very consistent since she was defeated now. So I was hoping that they will kind of build her up from there and put her against Deonna sometime soon, and then maybe mix her up with Trinity because I think that would be an interesting mix moving forward if they do decide to book that match.
Yeah, I think she and Deonna would be a great feud that I don't know if a lot of people are hoping for right now, but I think like if given the time and let it kind of just resonate with you and allow it to kind of grow on you, I think people would actually really enjoy it. I think they could have a really good chemistry, not only in the ring, but in segments as well.
Right after this, we had Kenny King. He's been in Sheldon backstage, giving him a few words of encouragement. He's like, "This is the opportunity you have tonight, one against Nick Aldis, is to start making opportunity for you." And he said, "Moving forward, think about this match and think it was like, what's in it for me when you have this type of match against somebody like Nick, as we have. It's just something that started with him and Kenny King." I don't know if you had any thoughts on that end before we move to the next part.
Yeah, I really like Kenny King, despite his fandom for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But no, I think every time I've watched Impact or TNA in the past and I see Kenny King, he's always in that mid-card level. And now he's kind of getting that push to be more of a focal part of a show, working with more of the top guys. And I think he really flows nicely with that. I think this guy is a world champion in the future for Impact, and I think this is a guy that you actually could start looking at as, hey, this guy could be a guy we could move the needle with here at Impact.
I feel like I thought it was interesting having him like have this rivalry now with Nick Aldis. I feel like it will hopefully highlight him and give him a direction. And not only but seeing him kind of be that mentor to Sheldon Jean, and it's something they mentioned during the match later on. I feel like it will kind of give him something consistent on TV to do, which this is something that we've been discussing for a little while, that he hasn't had anything consistent in Impact for a little while now. So I'm hoping this is that part for him now. Yeah, what's up?
Yeah, no, I was going to say that too. What I like too is you're not rushing Nick Aldis right into the title picture either. You're kind of letting him kind of breathe with the audience. Yes, he's back. Yes, he's kind of the new guy being there, but you're already kind of doing that with Trinity with the Knockouts title, so you don't necessarily need to do it with the world title with Nick Aldis. So the fact that they're putting Nick Aldis with a guy like Kenny King, it's great in threefold, because one, you're allowing Nick Aldis to breathe and get reconnected to him, because it is a new crop of fans at Impact than it was the 6 years he was last there. But you're also bringing up Kenny King in the process. And then what you're also doing is completing out your show, because now you have multiple feuds and multiple storylines that people are invested in. And in order to sell that pay-per-view at like Under Siege, which they're gearing towards in just a few weeks, it's a really great tactic, because now there's multiple shows that you want to be invested for. And as we saw with other pay-per-views from other companies, when you have that complete show, it just does so much for your company.
Yeah. And speaking of Trinity, we had a recap of her arrival and her promo from last week, and this is an interview with Gia. She does, reiterate that she has an open contract for Under Siege. So far, nobody, and they haven't said who's her opponent for the match. We had Jay Vidal interrupted, and he wants to take a selfie with her. And as he does take a selfie, Trinity just barely moves. He takes a selfie, he leaves, and she just asks Gia, "Who is that?" And she goes, "That's Jay. He works here." And that's all that she does. As she's smiling about it. I love that even now on Twitter. I just saw a few minutes ago, Trinity like tweeted about it, saying, "Hey Jay, nice to meet you." Now after the show aired, I thought it was kind of funny though the way they portrayed it. I don't know really why because we hadn't had her had any kind of interaction with Giselle. So I don't know why particularly this happened, but it was like overall purpose of this. It just felt random in there. Here Barry's comment here. I'm not sure Nick Aldis is to start Impact means that he's boring charisma less, limited ability rested, and never seen a good match. What do you think about that,
I mean,
Parrish?
to teach their own. I mean, that's the beauty about wrestling. You can have your favorites, and you can dislike a lot of people. Other people love. It's actually funny you say that because I think the same. Like when I watch it, I think the same way with like people like Jordynne Grace, and I'm not the world's biggest Joe Henry guy like Cody is. I don't hate him. I'm more, I'm still lukewarm with the Joe Henry thing, but at the same time, I get that because Nick Aldis doesn't exactly steal the light in a TV screen, like say Seth Rollins or maybe a Christian Cage, who, as I'm going to try to keep that towards Impact, but even a Josh Alexander, he's a lot more charismatic especially when he has this like family around. Like there's something emotional that draws you in. This is why I think Nick Aldis and Mickie James at some point need to do things together in Impact, just to bring that emotional investment to him that would allow people to actually connect with him. Because right now, how can you connect to Nick Aldis if you're just watching for the first time now? How do you connect to Nick Aldis? And why is Nick Aldis important to you? There's those things that you need to know. And if you can't see that, you're going to have an opinion just like Barry Monkey and maybe not be invested in them.
I think it's ironic that you say that because when I went to the tapings in January, that we had that everything with Bully Ray and Tommy Dreamer and Mickie James. And there was so many times that I would expect him to come down. And I kept looking at the ramp when Mickie was talking and when Bully was taking down Mickie. And I would never see, like, this would have been the perfect timing to bring him on and have him come on and defend Mickie. And I feel like the crowd would have popped so much for that, knowing that they finally get to have that interaction here on screen. And people already love Mickie James. So I feel like it would have been a great way to, like, kind of connect to that and add to that. So I think it's pretty interesting that you say that about how he should have kind of debuted in a way, because he comes in just as she's not even there anymore.
Well, yeah, the timing is pretty funny.
Yeah, it happens. But yeah, I don't know what you thought about the part with Jay and Naomi backstage or Trinity as with the interview. I just thought it was random, I guess, for me, at least for now.
It is, but it's a great way and I think it's important when you're new to a company that you try to at least have different segments with as many different people as possible. Not only for you to get acquainted to, but also for other people too. We don't know if down the line this is going to be something that we're seeing every episode on Impact. We don't know if that's going to be the big money match with Trinity in Impact. So it's a great little foreshadow. It's a great tester to see if they have any chemistry. And I think it was what it was. It wasn't meant to be the favorite thing, but it was meant to kind of just pique your interest a little bit. And I think it did, because I'm now wondering, what happens if we see more of that?
Yeah. When are we going to revisit it, I guess, because I know that we'll be with Giselle sometime soon. Right after that, we had Kenny King coming out.
I was just going to say, you know me, I always love Giselle. So, yeah, she's always golden in my books.
We had Kenny coming up for commentary. He was there for the Nick Aldis and Sheldon G match. And this is what I was saying, that during commentary, they do mention of like what happened earlier and saying that he's like kind of like mentor for Sheldon G. So I'm hoping that is something they keep doing moving forward with them. And I like how there was a part towards the kind of like the middle and end of the match when Sheldon has Nick, I think, going towards the post. And that's what he says. Yeah, that's what he means when he means about working his way up and going against people like Sheldon, for example. But I feel like the match in itself, there's nothing really that stood out to me. I feel like it felt kind of short though for Nick Aldis match. I don't know if it was because Sheldon's a newer guy. They don't want to kind of give him too much time for now, which just seems understandable in that way. Nick just wins with the submission towards the end. I didn't feel like there was anything special to it other than giving Nick that win and having Kenny in commentary as adding another layer there and having him just like ignite a little bit between him and Sheldon and him and Nick Aldis there. What did you think about it?
Yeah, and you kind of just said like it's a building block in the Nick Aldis Kenny King storyline, but also at the same time, if you have Sheldon Jean being the student to Kenny King, he's not going to necessarily always win, but when he does, it's going to be important. And obviously Nick Aldis, who's you're kind of the big guy bringing back, he's going to get that win, but at the same time, this is definitely okay, Sheldon Jean, let's see what you have up against a guy who is polished in the ring and Nick Aldis. Let's see how you do. Let's see how comfortable you are. Because this is definitely a show me what you got type of match, but at the same time, it's also a put over match for Nick Aldis. So,
Hello.
Yeah, so, hello, Bobby. How are you? Great job on Ring Respect just now. I very happy you're joining us. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, you just want to build that steam with Nick Aldis and with Kenny King. Kenny King being on commentary, I think was a really great touch because it allows that. I also really love Kenny King and Matthew Reinholdt's chemistry on announcing. They're very entertaining, and I hope we get a little bit more of that.
Yeah, I think this is one of the few instances that I really liked having that person in commentary because I feel like it added a little bit more, not only because of what's going on with him between Kenny and Nick in here, but also having that relationship or starting between Kenny and Sheldon here. So this is one of the few instances that I was like, give me more of this. I don't mind it. As Bobby said, tired and thank you. It was a long show tonight. Yeah, we noticed it felt weird having you on as we were coming on almost too. So right after this, we had, I guess, part 2 at this point of Joe Henry and Dirty Dango looking at the board and trying to figure out what happened to Santino. And I guess my co-host Cody didn't notice that they have Tyler Breeze on the board. Yes, Tyler Breeze is on the board. I said it last time too. They just have a back and forth with Zicky Dice and Johnny Swinger, and he calls Santino just to get a match official for later on in the night. And after this, I don't know if do you have anything that you thought about this part?
I mean, I really like the chemistry between Joe Hendry and Dango. I thought like this whole segment, just kind of like it does with Dango at times, it can get a little bit like, okay, what? But I mean, that's kind of his MO. But as you said, like Tyler Breeze being on there, it's a great touch. The fact that he still kind of, gives him a little like wink or a look once in a while. Like I love that. It's the little things that just keep you going. They're not insulting our intelligence by doing that. But at the same time, I also loved how I know when I say Zicky Dice and Swinger, they also pointed the finger at Joe Hendry at one point. And I thought that was interesting because we were kind of talking about this after. It's like it could be him. Like that would be a really good swerve. But I also I just love the chemistry, like especially with Dango. Like, hey, are you still good for my birthday party? And Joe Hendry goes, yeah, what time? He's like, don't worry about it. It's just me and you. Like, all right, see you there. And it's like, it was just the little things. The call with Santino was funny, especially Santino not knowing who he was and be like, yeah, just don't have your match. Just don't call me again. Like that. Those little things are they're entertaining. And that's what a good segment needs, is the ability to laugh. It's not completely serious yet, but you feel like that's going to come later. And I thought it was really good.
This is the third part of the Kazarian interview. It's mostly Gia pointing out the fact that even though he says his target has been to be a world champion, that has been his goal, and she has kind of pointed out to him how he's since arrival in Impact again, like he has been moving here and there, but he hasn't been towards the world championship, only aside from that match he had with Josh. And just talking about like, oh yeah, that's my goal. And she goes, well, aside from the match that you had with Josh, though, you have supported Mickey James, you have supported Jordynne and Swan and Callahan, and you've been in Team Dreamer recently, but it feels kind of like you kind of gone away from that goal. And he tells her, he's like, no, like that's still something that's on my list, but at the same time, and I like how he said this too, how he wants to help the company that put him on the map more than anything. Is another one of the parts on his list as well, aside from that World Championship, which I like hearing from him, somebody that's been there for so long and one of the people that actually built that foundation for TNA/Impact. But like for him to point out that it's not just about that world title, but about like helping the people within the company as well. And it's something that we've seen with him for the last couple of months. So I thought it was pretty interesting that they pointed it out this way. What were your thoughts on overall on the interview?
I liked it, and I also like the fact that Kazarian also lets people know that he is there from day one. He really shows that he is a true been there guy, but just hasn't been able to reach the pinnacle. I love it because it gets you sympathetic towards him. It makes you want to get behind him. It gets you invested in the chase. And I think anybody who watches pro wrestling knows a great baby face and their chase to the championship is that almost makes or breaks you. Because if it's a great chase, you're going to be a good champion. And when that moment does come, it's going to mean a lot, and it's going to be such a great moment. But at the same time, this is a great way of building Kazarian to be that guy. Because the one thing you're noticing with Impact is that with Josh Alexander out, okay, now you have Maclin as your champion. You have other people like a Cody Deaner or maybe and you do have PCO, he's up in there as he's in the title match at Under Siege, but then you also have a Moose, you have your maybe Myers, but then also now you're creating with Nick Aldis, Kenny King, now with Kazarian, you're identifying who's going to be your crop in that main title feud, and I love it because it gives the show so much what's the right word, direction in a way in regards to that championship, and that's a good thing because the one thing I love about what they're doing with Kazarian is that they're putting the spotlight on him, and he's now the focal point. He's not a side piece like he's been for a good chunk of his career. And I think if there's one person that deserves a world championship, it might be Kazarian.
Yeah, he's one of those people that I remember when I first started watching TNA, my brother was always kind of identified himself with certain people, and it was always AJ Styles was the first one, Daniels and Cass. Those are always his like top three people. So to see him being now where he is now, so it's interesting seeing him and just thinking of like, even though I've been here from the beginning, I helped out certain people. I love the part of like he's saying like I'm helping the company that they built, like I'm kind of paying back for the way they treated me and for building me up to who I am now. I feel like we usually don't hear that from any wrestler on the show, kind of say like I'm paying back to the company for the way they highlighted me and showcased me in the past. So I thought it was pretty interesting seeing him say that. Right after this we had the Decay, so it was Crazy Steve and Black Taurus. I feel like we haven't seen them in a little bit now at this point, versus the Good Hands. Towards, I would say, kind of like the middle of the match, we had Brian Myers come in and, have that distraction that does help the Good Hands have the win. To me, there was, I don't know for you, but there was nothing in the match for me that really stood out in that aspect other than that part of like Myers coming in and being that assist for the Good Hands to get that win. It was, I would say, nothing that I was not expecting, but I like how the interaction between them now and what we got a few minutes later, which we can even talk about now. That part of like backstage, Myers coming out and Moose kind of tells him, like, why are you doing with the Good Hands? And he's like, well, I see them as like the future tag team champions that I can just mold to be those champions. And he's like, well, we're a tag team, so why are you involved with them? And then he's like, that's the guy who's in the number one contenders match. And he's like, well, I can be a world champion. I can be a tag team too. So he's like, well, so can I. And I want to mold them to be who they. He's like, I was not always the most professional wrestler. It took me a while to get there. So I want to get you guys there. And I love seeing that too, because it just makes me think like of like, I like having that veteran come in and not take the spot from the younger guys, but like build them up in that way on the screen. So we kind of get that earlier with Kenny King and Sheldon, and not seeing it with the good hands and Myers. So I like that role that he has there now. So I thought that was pretty cool. What did you think about it?
I think it's very ironic that he's in that role because that's exactly kind of what he was with Zack Ryder, now Matt Cardona, when he was an Edgehead. So it's kind of funny to watch that, but now it's kind of materialized into what we see here. I also really enjoy it because it's different. I don't like Moose. I'm gonna just flat out say it. I'm not a big fan of the Myers Moose tandem, but what I do love is
you got me with that one. Nah, don't look at me.
I don't know, but I just love this because it keeps, as you say, the good hands in a position to, if they're learning and being under the learning tree, if they lose a match, it's not a big deal, but when they win, it is. So they're protected in that way. I love the Brian Myers addition because I think he fits. He really came off like a major player to me in this episode of Impact. But just to go back to the tag match, because what did stand out to me was Crazy Steve. I love Crazy Steve. I think that guy is just. I would love to see him live. I think I would just have a ball to see him. Just his little tactics when the good hands go to shake hands over him and he's biting the fingers only to do the eggnog like it's just such a different way. He's different. I like his portrayal. I love the way he's perceived to me as a viewer. I really like to see a push, like a singles push for him. No disrespect to his tag partner, Black Purrazzo, but at the same point, he's another guy that has been there for a while, and he should just get his just due, in my opinion, at some points. But at the same time, it's a great way to build the good hands up. It's a great way to build that trio and that connection up. And then I now can foresee a Moose versus Myers match down the road when they don't win the tag titles, because does anybody believe that they're going to beat Austin and Bay? Because I don't.
I don't think so. I like how you say that because I feel like I was very happy when my tapings came up because Crazy Steve was in the X Division match against Trey and they had a little program there, but Trey was not part of the pay-per-view that was coming up at that moment. And I was hoping they kind of would keep going from there after the tapings, and then once the pay-per-view happened and the next set of tapings happened, nothing happened with them. I was like, man, that would have been so nice for them to continue that. But I know that at that match that I saw, the Monsters Ball, he did say like, if this is the last one, that I'll go out like all out because it's a Monsters Ball match. But at the same time, I would have wished it would have continued because it was working so well. I feel like I was disappointed that it was so short and how they built it up and they just left it like that. But I'm like, I would have liked for Crazy Steve to get more of that kind of run, or have a run with the at least with the X Division sometime soon.
Yeah, and one thing I'll say, like we've seen in other say in WWE, Kofi Mania, or we've seen with guys having their like a moment of like being pushed to that title and we're just like, we just didn't expect it. How great would it be if Crazy Steve just was the X Division champion at the right place, right time, and he has that option C availability and he goes for it? How sympathetic would you be with Crazy Steve in that match, especially if it's against like a Steve Maclin, who you just aren't going to cheer for, but you'll probably cheer for Crazy Steve. It's kind of a situation that I think would rise his stock a lot, and it makes people now look at him as more of a threat and maybe more as a fan favorite. I think Crazy Steve is incredibly talented, and I really hope that there's something for him down the road.
Yeah, I enjoyed him a lot, and I love how he gets so much into his character when he's on screen. That's one thing I definitely I love from him, and I love how even the audience connected with him in that aspect. When I went to the taping and seeing the people just cheering for him, and you can see a smile on his face that he saw that. Having people with the Decay signs with like the same kind of fonts and the paint and everything that would glow in the dark. So like seeing that and how people cheer for him just in that match alone is like I wanted more from that. So that's why I was disappointed that it ended just after that. Um, but next up we had Maclin. He was arguing with Shira and Champagne Singh. He was talking about their relationship. He's just like, our relationship is over. He just kind of leaves. And then Singh and Shira are trying to find a way because they don't want that to slip out, being that they had this relationship with the world champion and they wanted to keep moving forward. And even Shira says, we can't let it slip through our fingers, that we got to think of something. And you see them kind of brainstorm to see what they could do to kind of bring Steve Maclin to their side again, instead of just having him run away the way he did. What did you think about that part?
See, I was curious because I wasn't sure if this was going to be just smoke and mirrors or if it was a legit thing, because I can also see Maclin wanting to be more his own thing. I did say as we were watching it, he seemed, to me, looks like a little bit of a bloated Robert Roode. But at the same time, I actually see a lot of Robert Roode from when he won the world title the first time in TNA Impact Wrestling to now, that if he just became his own identity, I can see Steve Maclin evolve and become a major star. So I can see it both ways, but at the same time, I really liked the fact that they gave us a reason to be intrigued with Champagne and Singh, right? Like, now you're interested. It's just a cliffhanger in just a little brief segment, and when they did what they did, it was great. And if you want to talk about that,
yeah,
like, we can.
I thought it was ironic because I thought there would be maybe a match or two, another segment or something before that happened, and I expected to happen like right away as we got up. But that's when they see him kind of going there backstage and just beating up Heath. I thought they were beating up Rhino just to like weaken him before the title match. It took me a moment to realize it was Heath that they were beating up, but then they leave, and that's when Rhino comes in. He's like, "Who the heck did this?" And they did tell him it was Shing and Sierra. I'm just trying to get into the good graces of Steve again. So I thought it was like, I like how even they showed it like kind of in that sequence, because it shows you like that, smart and quick thinking they did of like, let's do this. This is the way to get in again with Steve. But I really just thought it was going to be Rhino instead of Heath. I just thought it would be like, it would have made more sense to me, being that we had Steve and Rhino in the world title match.
Yeah, and I get that. And this is why I liked it, actually. One, I liked it because of the timing. I love that was right before the Rhino match, because then he's conflicted almost from an emotional standpoint, and knowing that it's like game time, because when you have to perform, and when it's game time, you're in a mindset, right? You're lasered in. And then when something emotional happens, like, okay, somebody just attacked your friend, somebody attacked your brother, somebody attacked whatever in this, all of a sudden your trance that you're in is lost, and it takes you away from your game. It's a psychology tactic that I love, and does not happen a lot. The backstage assaults, yes, we see that a lot, but the timing of right before a match, and when it's done right, it's great. The only problem is it didn't translate into the match, and that's my thing that I did not like about it. However, I love the statement that it came, because now I can see Heath coming back, and I can see that tag match with Rhino. And that to me is interesting.
Yeah, and I like what you said about the timing, because we go from, Steve Maclin just leaving the scene to Singh and Shira debating on what they do. Then they show them attacking Heath. It takes, like you said, Rhino out of that mindset towards the world title match. And the referee telling me, your match is next, you have to go. So he doesn't have time to process what's going on. And then we go now next to the title match, which I like the timing of like that sequence there, because I really expected something else to happen in between there before everything. But I'm glad they didn't interrupt it, and they all kind of happened in a row there. And that's when we had Steve versus Rhino. I enjoyed the match. It's just, Steve is one of those people that he's more like a slower pace. So I was not expecting to be anything like fast paced, or like in that aspect, in that environment. I love that part though, towards like the beginning of the match, that Rhino's like already setting up for the gore, and Steve just slides out of the ring because he knows it's coming. And like that mindset of like the timing of it, and he knows that. And even like when he just hit the gore himself, I was like, Well, yeah, that was nice to see. But more than anything, in the match in itself, I like that after Steve retained, he did, have his own moment with Rhino. He had him in a submission during the match that was kind of weakening his knee, and they just said he has to surgically repair the knee. So they did point that out during the match, and even towards the end when he does the post attack, hitting him with the chair, and yeah, the chair, the candlestick, and having all that part, and not only that, but adding the part of like we get the ambulance part right after this. So I like how we all went in the row with this story. So they had Scott Moore was kind of escorting Rhino to the ambulance, and then we had kind of Steve yelling at him. He's like, "Oh, this is what you get for like kind of assigning somebody towards me for the world title before Under Siege." He goes, "You know what? Just because of that, I'm gonna make that that match with PCO on ODQ match." And I like how out of nowhere, which I didn't get to see at least. I don't know if you did, but I missed it of like having PCO. I don't know when he was inside the ambulance, but he just came out of the ambulance to attack Steve right after that, and just keep building up from there. But like I said, I just like how the story was like this whole like big chapter here, and that everything went in a row. So I love like the timing and the sequence of everything that happened here.
Yeah, and I thought it was a really great decision to make everything all in play, because now Rhino has nobody to help him, as we saw Heath being hurt, right? So it kind of made the PCO a surprise, even though you kind of assumed something with PCO and Maclin was going to happen, because they do have an advertised scheduled match at Under Siege in just a couple weeks. So you're expecting it in the way. However, the time they did, you don't really notice it. And if you don't mind, I'm going to throw up that. Oh, Bobby and I moment with you and I, but yeah, and that's it's funny because this is what I dislike when I see taped promo segments put into a spot, is sometimes you notice those little things. I'm sure I'm not the only one that can pick part sometimes in movies or TV shows when they also have those little irregularities. But yeah, it is funny to see. Go back one anyway. Staying on track. It's what I liked was that we saw Scott D'Amore have that moment where he's telling Rhino, you'll be okay. He gives a double tap, which is the universal sign for the ambulance to move, which I'm very shocked it didn't, because that's what you do. You just tap it twice, and then that alerts the driver that you're good to go. The doors are closed, everything's fine. And then Maclin comes in right in his face, as you said. And then what's funny is you can tell that it's actually funny that Barry Monkey mentioned that about the glasses, because you notice also, if you really pay attention or closely, like there's a little moment of gap. You can tell that it was almost shot in two parts, because then when they pan back to the ambulance and they went out, that's when PCO comes out and attacks Maclin. And it was just like, okay, what? So it's just little things that I don't know. Maybe you're spoiled. Like I'm spoiled, like because I do watch WWE and their production value is so just on a different level that they sometimes don't catch that. But at the same time, I love it because it makes the organic and the natural reaction and emotion so much better with Impact. So it's actually, I didn't hate it. I loved it because it made me care about their feud, but it's just funny, the little things that you do pick up on when you watch them closely.
Yeah, that's very true. Right after this is what we had the Joe Henry promo. He was advised not to do the promo. I forgot if it was it Michael Jordan? I forgot who it was, like the shoe person, like that advised him not to do it because it was dangerous. But he just kind of leading up to that part of having Dango versus Swinger. Again, this is nothing out of the ordinary. That even the match didn't last too long either. I just thought it was funny how we started with like Zicky trying to get the advantage of Dango by distracting him, but even with everything that happened, we had Dango winning at the end. Nothing out of the ordinary, like that really stood out to me either on this one. It was just a way to like give us a little bit more about what happened with the board earlier. But I just one thing that I wanted to point out, because you mentioned it earlier too, and I kept thinking about it. I told you as we were watching this part, I kept thinking, and I said it before with like Joe Henry with Cody and I starting the show. Just seeing how Joe Henry, how he connects with the crowd. I would love for it to be like kind of him of coming out and saying, I charmed you guys in a way, and you guys kind of fell for like the facade that I gave you, like being this motivational kind of speaker, and like you guys kind of do with him. You do the wave and you say my name, and you do the catchphrases and you do the moves, and then all of a sudden he comes out and says that he's the one that attacked Santino or something like that happening of like kind of that twist that you don't expect from somebody like Joe Henry because he connects so well with the crowd. And I would like to see if he does turn heel in that type of way. I would like to see how the crowd reacts moving forward and just to kind of repeat what he does and he says, just to like keep that going with him, even with the character change. I know you were thinking something similar as you were watching that too, right?
Yeah, it's funny because you're saying that, and it reminds me of a lot of Rikishi when he was revealed as the guy who ran over Stone Cold. And I see a lot of things because he was, in a way, this exact same way. He was the people that the crowd interacted with, they loved, and they had fun with. Kind of a similar thing with Joe Hendry. And I kind of like the, peeling the wool over the eyes mentality by saying, yeah, it is me, or kind of a thing that reveal. And I think depending on, and this is if they go in this direction, but if that is, the reveal is so important to Joe Henry's then next steps, because if that reveal isn't perfect, it's going to really play a part into how people perceive him moving forward, because he is going, and I think, to turn into the biggest dick. And I am kind of okay with that because I think with Bully not there, you kind of get that there's that hole, right? Nobody gets a crowd that rambunctious in a negative way better than Bully Ray. But I feel Joe Hendry actually has that ability, because it's almost like if he's asking you to do the wave, he's giving you, just say the two words, I believe. But what happens if he just takes that belief and shoves it up to people's butts? It'd be so much of an FU moment, and I think it would be great, and I think it would be great for Joe Henry, and I think Dango versus Joe Henry would be very interesting.
Yeah, I would just like to hear that promo from him saying, look how easily I just waved at you and you guys just followed like what I did, and I said one catchphrase and you guys just repeated after me without me like really like encouraging you in that way, and like you clap into my theme song and like the way you do, and like the little things that we do when Joe Henry comes out. So I would like to like see him kind of twist that up when I was like, see, I fooled you guys that easily, like I can fool the audience that easily and get you guys to be on my side. Look how quickly, when my debut happened, you guys were already like connected with me in that type of way. So I would like to see that, but also, like I said, I would like to see like how the audience reacts to him if they still kind of do this stuff just to like bother him as a heel, because I would like to see that happening as well. But just like I would like to see that kind of change him and just saying this was all an act. I just wanted to see how far it took you guys to like follow along with me, and it was quicker than I thought it would be. So I think it will be super interesting going forward if he is the one that attacks Santino and it kind of initiates that. And then, like you said, having him and Dango will be interesting as well moving forward, because he had them team up. And like you said, he invited him to the birthday too. So they're building that little friendship between them. So it's like something has to happen in there because it's going too good to be true so far.
I kind of hope that this birthday party is something they play out in a segment, because I do think that's either going to be the most hilarious thing we can watch, or that's where this stuff gets picked up on. But also, like, how great of a digital media champion would it be that Joe Henry says, hey, when I pander to you, audience, you're following me at the click of a button, at the click of everything. But then when I do one thing you don't like, just like typical people on digital media, you hate everything I do. I think it's such a great thing if they were to go that route, and I think there's a lot you can do with a heel Joe Hendry.
Yeah. Right after this, we had the promo from Diener. He just talks about the betrayal from Sammy. He's like, if you chose betrayals, basically you're choosing your own pain and suffering. And he goes back to that moment where all the like yellow hoodies came and attacked Sammy. And I like how during this promo they pan out and they have some other people, the hoodies behind them, just like standing up, like And then all of a sudden we see them getting beat up, and you're like, what the hell is happening? Just because you see somebody in a yellow hoodie still doing it, and you don't realize with the pattern because they're all wearing the same thing. That is Swan and Callahan beating up the same people here before. I think the design just ran out of there. But I thought it was funny because seeing that they were wearing the same thing, they meshed so well with everybody else. I just didn't think about like something was happening at first, and it took me that moment to realize it was. So I just thought it was funny, like the timing of it there, though.
Yeah, I thought they could have done a little bit better with the execution in letting it breathe a little bit. I love the fact that he's like, at a snap of the button, they'll just beat anybody up. And then they start fighting. It was almost kind of like we were talking Power Rangers. If you remember the clay putty and how they just did whatever Rita would say, it almost seemed like it was a wrestling's version of the clay putty. And it's like, it was kind of funny because he didn't take them necessarily serious, but at the same time, they are serious because they could be a threat. But I just thought the execution of unmasking or taking off the hood and revealing it's them, I just thought that could have been done a little bit better. But at the same time, it's a nice touch to continue the storyline. So like at the end of the day, the point was made, and you understood what they were doing. So you can't really fault them too much, even though I might have my personal critiques. Doesn't matter because at the end of the day, they got what they needed to do off and out there.
Yeah. Right after this, when we had that little part of Myers and Moose backstage talking about him being the mentor for the good hands that we already discussed. So after this, and when they gave us the rundown of so far what we have for Under Siege, so we have Deonna versus Jordynne for the Knockouts World title. This is where if Jordynne loses, she doesn't get a title shot as long as Deonna is champion. And then they updated the Steve versus PCO to be a no DQ match now. They officially had the graphic for Trey Miguel versus Sabin for the X Division. And then they gave us Kenny King versus Nick Aldis official for Under Siege. I don't think they put the graphic for this one, but we do have Trinity having an open contract match. We just don't know who the opponent is so far. And the one that we already knew about will be Moose, which is what Myers was talking about. It's Moose versus Eddie, Edwards versus Gresham versus Yuya versus Shelly versus Kazarian for the #1 contenders match that's happening so far in Under Siege. And then right after that, we had just 2 matches announced for next, which is Trey Miguel versus Laredo Kid, which is something we've been waiting for. And then I like this. The matches of this was interesting when I saw the cards. Was Moose and Edwards and Kaz, who feel like it doesn't really belong there. Versus Yuja, Shelly, and Gresham. I know with Cass, it just being that he's the good guy, so he's like the odd man out from like you can't put him on the other side. So I thought it was interesting that he's teaming with Musa and Edwards of all people. I was not expecting that at all. Right after this is when we had Deonna and Jordynne versus the Coven for the Knockouts Tag Team Championship. I think more than anything with this one, I like how it started with Deonna and Jordynne having like a good double team move just to begin the match is something I was not expecting from them because it's the first time they team up like this. But we had a lot of parts of like Jordynne was in the match most of the time. So we had Kilynn kind of taunting Jordynne, but like giving her that tag that Deonna wasn't gonna get. So it took a little bit for Jordynne to get into the match and having that hot tag in there. And that's when she had it. She was taking over the Coven here. And I like how when she was getting that momentum already against them, it's when she was about to dive and they held her on and they hit her against the apron there to stop her. And I know also love the muscle buster that Jordynne did to Taylor. But more towards the end, it was like they used Jordynne to push Deonna from the apron. So we were able to take out Jordynne in that way, pin her to retain the titles. And as they're like beating them up, Jordynne's by herself because Deonna got knocked down. So we had Trinity come in and assist Jordynne in that aspect and take them down, get the rear view to Kilynn Kim before Kilynn slides out of the ring. And we had Jordynne shaking hands with Trinity, kind of giving us something might happen between them after Under Siege, perhaps moving forward. And then Jordynne kind of shaking her, saying, kind of thank you for the assist. And that was pretty much it between them, but we didn't get to see Deonna after the match ended. What did you think of the main event tonight?
Yeah, and that was a really confusing part because again, like there's a good time where you're not seeing the Knockouts champion, so it was kind of like, okay, like where is Deonna? out of this, and maybe that is supposed to be what we're supposed to think. Maybe she is, in a weird way, maybe the champion is the odd woman out here, because maybe there is a connection between Trinity and Jordynne Grace forming. I said it to you, like, I wouldn't be surprised if Deonna Purrazzo beats Jordynne Grace, allowing Jordynne to never having that championship again, or a championship opportunity again, as long as Deonna's the champion, only then to help maybe Trinity, I should say, claim that championship, just so down the road she's the one who can stab Trinity in the back and get that championship. So it's all about her. I can see that out of Jordynne Grace, because as I watch her, she seems to be only focused a lot on her goal, and she doesn't necessarily she's not the best second fiddler out of the group. Well, I'll just say that. But I did like the tag match. I really liked how it showed both Jordynne and Deonna, when they're working together, they were unstoppable. However, you needed something, whether it's a good psychology trick, whether it's doing something that's smart heels. And with your Knockouts tag champions, they need to be able to work together to outsmart their baby faces at some parts of the match. And they did that, and they understood that if they played them against each other in some spots, that's where they could have success, and that's what paid off for them. And I really liked that, and I thought it was a statement tag match for Kylie King and Taylor Wilde, to be quite honest, because they beat two of the top females in the Knockouts division.
Yeah, I like how even Barry said, and I kept thinking, I think this is probably, like, I don't want to say the best, but like, I don't want to say favorite either, but I feel like it feels in that way like the best kind of match they got out of Taylor Wilde, because we haven't enjoyed Taylor's performances lately, and I feel like this one was very consistent in here with the girls. So yeah, I feel like this was very well done with Taylor involved in here, and like you said, I like also in that aspect when they come in the commentary and they tell us, oh, what if they're tag champions, but they're facing each other on their siege, like they're a team, but in that particular match they're not going to be a team. I'm like that. I like how they sold it in here at little instances where they told us that. And as Daphne's saying, started out strong with Killer Kelly, Masha, and love the Knockouts main event. I hope they run back Masha and Kelly. I do feel like that finish is going to be the reason why we do get that rematch between both of them, and it does make sense that we get another one before they actually close kind of that chapter between them. But yeah, I love that we started with the Knockouts and we finished with the Knockouts tonight. It's as Cody and I said, we have those weeks of like they do at least 2 Knockouts matches versus there's 1 week that they do a lot of like backstage and interview segments in only 1 match, and it's kind of like a quick match. So this was definitely the knockout heavy week, which is something that we expected going over like versus what we got last week. But yeah, overall, I feel like the episode wasn't bad. I feel like it was a good, continuation to Under Siege and a good build up there. What did you think overall of like the whole episode of Impact tonight?
Yeah, and you said it too. Like it's a building show, and you need those to help gain their tractions, whether it's to the feuds, whether it's to the show Under Siege in just a couple weeks. And it might not be the most, oh my God, you got to see it because of this. But at the same time, you're going to remember this show because it was definitely important to a lot of the bigger things you will see. So it's a very important episode. You need these. I thought it did its job, and what it did, and I thought it was very good, is it made me want to watch Under Siege, and I think that's a very important thing to take away from this show, because it gets you invested in not only what's going on, but the potential payoff of Under Siege and what could happen there. So I thought it was a really good episode for that, despite you might not get your, oh my God, did you see this? Like last week, we got that Trinity thing. We're not going to get something big this week, and that's okay, because what we got was more of the why into how things develop.
Yeah. Well, before we go, I want to thank you for being here with me tonight. I know you were coming just right off for work to just do the show, so I appreciate you. So I figured, aside from that, where can the people find you? What else do you have going on?
Well, I made that for me.
Oh, you made a
I
new
did
one.
that. I did that. Yeah. But yeah, no, you can follow me on my socials at Twitter, Chris Parrish. You can follow me on my Instagram, Chris.Parrish, my YouTube at Chris Parrish, and then my Twitch at the Chris Parrish, which is incorrectly done there. My bad. That's on me, people.
I was gonna say, you said you did it, so it's your bad.
I did it quickly and incorrectly. But yeah, and then always you can follow me at our local establishment. As this Sunday we have Bobby Munson and I, who's in the chat. We have Bougie as our guest on Sunday for the Mother's Day episode, which is very interesting. So yeah, you can follow me there, and then obviously every Monday I do the Raw watch along.
Yeah, as always, we always say check out our local establishments. We have a lot going on over there, so I always say you'll find something that you enjoy. So subscribe to the YouTube more than anything, because most everything's gonna be there. And once you find something that you like, keep following it and let us know what you enjoy out of OLE. For me, you can find me on my Twitter, which is Astrid Pizarro, and my Instagram is Astrid Pizarro20. I'll be back again on Tuesday taking over with Ed, chatting about NXT, and again on Thursday doing Making an Impact with Cody. And aside from that, my NXT review goes live on Women's Wrestling Talk on the weekend. But aside from that, not much going on for the moment. Hopefully, this month I'll record another episode of Astrid Ask, so that'll be coming up soon. Hopefully for late May, if not early June. But aside from that, just subscribe to the YouTube channel. Click on that bell to get notified whenever I go live or upload to the channel. But before we go, I did want to do a raid, and none other than the boss is online right now, so I figured I will jump in and give him that raid. So giving back the favor for all the times he's done it to me. But yeah, again, I want to thank you, Ferris, for stopping here with me tonight. Everybody in the comments for being here tonight as well. Again, I will be here next week to chat Impact on the way to Under Siege. But thank you for being here tonight. We'll see you next week. Bye.